I mean, I hoped it was helpful for you, but like there was a part of me that was nervous. Like I knew I needed it, but I was like, I don't want to like push this on you. I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want you to feel like
Yeah.
I am, um, you know, I'm like a boss looking over your shoulder. But I do want to communicate so we can figure out, wait, how are we splitting business responsibilities,
Hmm.
family responsibilities, house
Yeah.
responsibilities? Hi, I'm Alec from Easier Habits, and I coach overthinking entrepreneurs in how to take their overwhelm and procrastination and turn them into unstoppable execution. I'm here with my lovely wife, Meg, because we're talking about stress in a series about how stress in an entrepreneur's life can domino. So if you don't have resilient systems in your family or your business or your mental or physical health, stresses there can domino outward. And we have just experienced that because Meg had a surgery over the summer when the kids weren't in school, and we had to figure out how to manage the business, how to manage the family, how to manage health issues all at once. And one of the things that was really helpful post surgery when the drugs were wearing off. So I didn't want to dive straight into this, but like when Meg had recovered a little bit, setting up a check in as a couple so we could talk about several of those things, how we're feeling mental health wise, what we're doing work wise, etc., just so there could be that communication. Because I felt like I was overwhelmed, I wasn't doing enough, I felt very stressed, and I also wanted to make sure that I was including Meg, that I wasn't either putting too much on Meg or not letting her be helpful in ways that she could be helpful. And so we decided to coordinate that. And I forget what my first ask specifically was. I think I just said check in.
Hmm. I feel like I was also part of kind of bringing all of this to light
Yeah.
because with this most recent surgery, I mean, it's no secret I've got health issues. But this one in particular, I don't know what it was, but mentally it kind of put me in a different space where before I thought, okay, another surgery, I'll move past it, I'll move on with my life and things will be fine. For some reason, I didn't have that sense this time.
Well, so this is a spine surgery. You've had spine surgery several years ago, but you had a surgery for a different issue
Last
summer, and we're trying to start businesses and figure out figure out how to do that. We moved to a new area in the last couple years, and so we're still putting down roots, especially because of COVID and all of that. And so I feel like this second hit of health issues during the summer
Yeah.
when there's extra, watching kids' responsibilities, I think that just hit us harder.
It really did. And for me, just kind of, I don't want to say emotionally, but the idea of, okay, I really need to figure out something else in my life because what I've been doing for so many years isn't working. Not that the stuff I've been doing hasn't been fun and amazing, but it's not sustainable and it wasn't focused enough. And so I started going through a bunch of kind of rehearsals in my mind of, okay, this is what's been going on. This is where I am now. What's this going to look like in the future? And it seemed like a really good time to kind of reconnect with you. Since we've done check-ins like this in the past, it was something that I felt I needed on a daily basis, just so I could stay in touch with you as I'm going through all of my own, um, you know, changes, I guess.
Well, yeah, and the context you're giving is reminding me one of the reasons why I thought we should have the check-ins is you mentioned scaling back your work,
Yeah.
and focusing on a few things. And I was wondering, like, what does that mean? What does that mean for income? What does that mean for responsibilities? In the past, when you've scaled up your work, I've tried to take on household chores or rearrange my, the home schedule. And that's kind of the challenge of us both working from home, both parenting, both being entrepreneurs, running our own businesses. So, yeah, I wanted to check in to address that, but it sounds like you've been thinking about much the same thing. We should communicate more.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the great things about our marriage is that we've been together long enough to know the other person and know when we need that. And then when to just kind of get down to business and do stuff.
I'll admit, I mean, I hoped it was helpful for you, but like there was a part of me that was nervous. Like I knew I needed it, but I was like, I don't want to like push this on you. I don't want to be overbearing. I don't want you to feel like
Yeah.
I am, I'm like a boss looking over your shoulder. But I do want to communicate so we can figure out, wait, how are we splitting business responsibilities, family responsibilities, house
Yeah.
responsibilities?
Well, and I will, preface this to everybody too with that. I have a tendency to get kind of avoidant when I'm stressed, and I don't like to talk about my feelings because they don't make sense a lot of the times. I have a hard time voicing them. And it's easier just to kind of shove it down and do things. But I've also known and recognized with our communication that talking is really good for me and that it helps me get into a headspace where I can feel positive about moving forward. And for that, I'm very grateful that you are always providing these opportunities and that I was able to recognize the need for that this time, and not just have to, I don't know, kind of flounder in my own neuroses.
Well, and we've been through several iterations of different communications, especially when things are stressful.
Yeah.
So kind of a pattern is if things are less stressful, we kind of go by ear. And we also, if things are less stressful, you're more likely to have energy in the evenings. And so like check-ins will happen more naturally. We typically will do a Sunday night weekly planning. And that can be a week check-in, just like what do we have going on this week and who's got what.
Yeah.
What
are the boys doing? What?
Yeah, but we've been on a little bit of break with that because of surgery and whatnot. So we decided, that that's something more regular, check-in at the beginning of the day when we still have some energy. Over the summer when the kids are, they can kind of see to themselves, especially first thing in the morning before like they really get bored. And so,
mommy, daddy.
Yeah. So we decided to do a check-in, and that consists of just checking in with our mental state, like how we're feeling right now. And I actually stole that directly out of Holacracy. When you do a meeting, that you have like a check-in, which is kind of weird to do in a normal business setting, because a lot of American business settings are not touchy-feely, but it's much easier to do with your spouse. We wanted to include a 5-minute meditation to help de-stress. So like a way this looks, right, in a stressful period is my mental state is probably like stressed, anxious, worried, feeling like I'm not doing as much as I could or being guilty about that. And so the 5-minute allows me to clear my head a little bit. For the most part, my brain is still racing, but I have a few moments of like calm focusing on my breath in that 5 minutes. And it does help. And then a third part of
mandatory joy.
Mandatory joy. We were joking about that, but we were talking about, while life is stressful, life is always going to be stressful to some degree. Even if you scale back what you do, I feel like my sense of what is stressful just increases. Versus when stress is really high naturally, and I lean into it in the sense of like upping my game, doing things like this communication thing to like be more productive and more effective, then my sense of stress goes down. And so like, I feel like if I'm not careful, I will be at a moderate level of stress all the time. Because if it's really high, I will do something to compensate for it and bring it down. But if it's low, then I'm much more likely to be lazy or skip things that make me resilient. And so like my level of stress, ambient stress, just increases even when things are easier. And so with all of that, thinking about making time to say what we're going to do that day to have joy in our lives was a big deal for me in particular, just in terms of like, I don't want to live my life constantly feeling like viewing my life as a series of problems I have to finish or fix just to solve that problem and have another, right? I wanted to work on a sense of joy, and I didn't really know what that would look like.
Well, and from my perspective, it was, when I had mentioned initially scaling back, it wasn't just with work, it was with every aspect of my life, because this past couple of years, I've done a lot of stuff. And it was running me ragged, really. And so I decided to kind of Marie Kondo my life and get rid of the excess and only keep the stuff that did spark joy. And so every day I wanted to look at the tasks that I had and see, okay, is this actually going to bring me joy or not? Now, at the same time, I'm kind of addressing like being an adult and trying to be mature about this and recognizing that there are things I do in life and have to do in life that aren't always going to bring me joy. I don't like cleaning. It does not bring me joy, but I can find ways that it will bring me joy, knowing that having a clean space makes my mind clearer and that brings me joy. And so I can look at it that way with those less desirable tasks that still need to get done. So for me, it was a way of framing the unpleasant tasks in my mind, as well as getting rid of the things that didn't actually need to happen. And then with the meditation, it was just a nice way to take a mindful break because I can sometimes get started in the morning and my mind will go on autopilot. And before I realize it, hours have passed and I've done stuff. But is it the stuff that would have been most effective for me that day? Not necessarily. And so I wanted that chance to step back, clear my mind so that I could reapproach things from a mindful perspective.
Yeah. And that mandatory joy, I think you reframe things more. What I use that for a little bit more is like also including something, making sure I have some like reward or break in my schedule so that I'm not just, trying to work harder, at being, and being more stressed, et cetera, and just letting that compound to a point where, and I will do this because I am an overthinking entrepreneur. I become avoidant of stuff because I'm like, I just have too much stuff to do. And don't
See,
even want
he
to think about it.
says that, except that you're the one who does the majority of the deep cleaning, the dishes every day, the laundry every week. You do a lot of work that traditionally husbands don't always do, but also that is really necessary. And you've always done it because you have this sense of duty and responsibility that I don't have inherently. I have to kind of force myself into that. It's really hard for me to do that. Whereas, so I think for you, you need that time to, okay, how am I going to actually have fun? And for me, it's okay, how can I get myself to do the stuff that's not fun?
But either way, I think
Yeah.
the thing that's helpful is the framing, like how are we going to reframe our day
Yes.
into something where there's joy. We have something to look forward to. I'm gonna go focus on the like, what am I gonna look forward to? What's gonna be better about today, rather than just what problems we have to deal with, which is a little bit more the first section, that check-in. That becomes either a quick personal check-in, or if there's a bigger issue that that can spark just a conversation about like, I need help with this. I need help with groceries, and so I need help figuring out when Meg was able to do groceries again after the surgery, which was very nice. And it was one thing off my plate, for example. So checking in, or I'd taken over a lot of the I'm not time with kids, but some of the school preparations. But as you were feeling better, you were able to take some of those on. So like when I was saying like I'm really overwhelmed, and I don't feel like I have a good gauge on all the work stuff and all the kids stuff at the same time, that turned into a session where I could ask for help in those areas, and we kind of hashed that, what that would look like, and what would work for you as well.
Yeah, and it's been really great for me too, just having that check in to again ground myself in how am I feeling right now, where is my head at, and what do I feel capable of today? Because there are some days where I'm saying, okay, well, it's a pain day. This is going to be a hard day. How can I still address that in a way that I will feel positive going forward? But in order to do that, I have to recognize that that's the kind of day I'm having, as opposed to just, ignoring it or something. And I've loved how that's really shown through these last few weeks. When did we start this? Like a month ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. And the different areas that I've seen it help improve our lives with dinners, right? With taking care of the boys, with the things that we feel from our failures and our struggles as we try to move through things. This morning I was talking about guilt for not being able to do as much as I could before, and having that space to connect with you and hearing your kind of affirmations of your own feelings, as well as, yeah, just your perspective on the things that I can do and helping me see that was really nice. Honestly, it's just like, okay, I can do this. And then, looking forward to making this video today. I was actually really excited for it. So, yeah.
Meg has helped with our other video on reflexive listening exercise. That is my most popular video, and at least half my subscribers come from that. So she's great at these videos. That check-in time, and it helps me as I'm talking about my emotional patterns and hearing yours to kind of recognize some that we both have.
Yeah.
For example, we're both likely to feel like kind of work independently and feel like we're not doing enough.
Right.
And I think earlier on in our marriage, we also projected that on the other person. So when we first had kids, and you asked me to help out with Eli more, I was always wondering, like, oh, are you resenting me for not doing enough, rather than just like, oh, we need to recalibrate. Mm-hmm. I'll do bath time with Eli. I remember you asking me to do that specifically.
Yeah. And I was resenting him, but I also wasn't asking for help, right? So this was a thing where I just kind of stewed in my mind without voicing anything that I was feeling, and just let those negative feelings get stronger and stronger until I didn't snap. But it was hard, right? And we had to have a hard conversation, right? Those difficult ones. Whereas right now, I feel like we're having this check-in every day. Nothing gets, we're far enough into our relationship that we have that mutual trust, and understand that the other is doing their best. But that it is easier to just talk about things. And if we do need help, then we can make that ask without it being a big thing and without any resentment building.
Yeah, that's one thing. So, the principles in terms of like handling stress as a couple, like make regular time to talk. I think another big one there is let someone make an ask. Someone needing something is not a referendum on your performance as a spouse. It's just a sign of recalibration. And
knowing the other is giving the other person the benefit of the doubt that they are doing their best, and that they trust you to be doing your best. I think that has been a big thing for me, realizing that the stuff that, I was resenting you for wasn't you at all. That was my projection of my own inadequacies as a new mother, feeling not enough and saying, well, you're not doing enough, even though I never asked. I was doing everything and trying to seem, super strong about it. And so then once I realized that you really did have my feelings, my best interests in your mind, starting from that place of trust and benefit of the doubt, and then moving forward, I knew that we could work together as opposed to being oppositional. I wasn't trying to get stuff from you. I was trying to work with you towards something.
And I think I got better along the way about offering, or noticing like, hey, this is hard. Can I help with this when I have extra capacity? I just, didn't know what to help out with or when to help. And you kind of, we're going with our first. That was like when the first time we really had to work together as a couple rather than just being independent. And so I think that's when that shook out. So making the regular time, giving each other the benefit of the doubt. This kind of goes with the regular time, but like making the asks before you get really frustrated.
Yes, recognizing when you're on that path.
That helps. And on the flip side, like learning to offer or check in, with someone like, how are you doing? Which provides the circumstance for that conversation. There's I feel language. I think that's something we worked on very deliberately at one point. I think, kid number 2.
Yes.
The stresses that came with that. These big life events that really change how much workload you have and, how much you can do what and where. But the I feel language is just, instead of saying you're not doing this or you're not doing that, or even I feel that you're not doing that, it's I feel this problem that I'm experiencing. I feel like I don't have enough energy to do all of this.
Yeah.
I feel very stressed about this.
And I feel like once we started doing that, I really was able to understand you better as a person, because before that, again, it was, you're not doing this, I'm not doing this, whatever. And we weren't too accusatory. We didn't really fight, but I didn't understand the way that you thought, because it is very different from the way that I think in a lot of ways. We are very similar in some of the reactions we have to various stresses, but also, just kind of our thought processes. I don't know. It's just interesting figuring out how your mind works in ways that are similar and different to mine. And I wouldn't have understood that without really listening to your I feels.
Yeah, and yeah, I don't think we accused each other, and we're not the type of couple that has shouting matches.
No.
It's definitely more the like early on it was the work
Quiet
on something.
resentment.
Yeah, work on something on your own until you're way stressed out and frustrated, and then confront the other person. And so the stages we went through of communication were, I mean, the very basics, learning to just make the asks, and then around kid number 2, like learning to. I feel like around kid number 2, some of our language when we were frustrated was, I feel like you're not.
Yes.
Rather than just, I feel stressed out because I don't have these things I need. And so that's where we worked on that. We moved to Japan, which was a whole nother adventure, and that was a really good fit for you. And I was trying to transition to like primary caretaker daddy and being in the middle of nowhere and not being nearly as good at Japanese. And so that was really stressful for me. So we started, we had a lot of difficult conversations, and you got tired of being ambushed by having difficult conversations, if I remember.
I do. Yes, that was exhausting.
Right. So it's just, because if you don't know that they're coming, and so we actually had a schedule every night, and so we had nights just like have fun and, watch a streaming show, nights to do our own thing, nights for kind of our own like professional development or work or whatever. But we had one night a week that was fair game for just bring up difficulties asked, etc. And it's not that we never talked about it outside of that potentially, but with the way I had been doing things, just being frustrated, I would go weeks before making an ask or making an adjustment, and again that was more frustrating. So like even just having that one night a week actually like shaved off a couple of weeks of time. Like I didn't feel like I had to wait till then per se. On average, it actually helped me make asks easier. And so that was like one of our first iterations of check-ins. And then at some point, just more for housekeeping, when we gotten back to the States, we did our Sunday evening weekly check-in to just kind of generally coordinate. And that and a lot of, informal check-ins as needed or whatever, just communications as needed in the evenings or whatnot, was sufficient. And then we hit, second surgery. And now we're doing this short daily check-in. So sometimes it extends longer if there's something we have to like figure out between the two of us. But for the most part, we can do it in about 15 minutes.
Yeah. And I love to see how it's evolved from, out of absolute desperation to like, okay, we're figuring this out, to very proactive. And I look forward to those times in the morning where we get to kind of start our day together. It's allowed me to reach a place of vulnerability with you that I don't feel like I have been very comfortable, because I hate being vulnerable. I don't want to show my feelings and weaknesses and stuff, yet I constantly feel that. And this is one of the first times where I felt really comfortable starting to voice some of those things. And it's been really good for me. I've really appreciated that. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that sentence, but it's...
Yeah, I mean, the magic of our check-ins is it is a relatively small daily habit, but just making space for something allows it to happen.
Yeah.
And it, like, I don't want to pry when you don't want to talk about things. So, like, that gives me a space where I don't have to pry or feel like I'm like poking at something, is this the right time? I don't
Yeah.
have to second guess that, which makes it easier. And there's all sorts of other stuff that I am not as good at that I can bring into that or articulate, like appreciation, verbal appreciation. Like I do appreciate what you do. Do I, say that enough? And I find often that as I'm checking in, if I'm asking for help, or you're talking about how you're feeling, that actually gives me more opportunities to say, I really appreciate what you're doing here, or you're really good at this. I could use help here.
Yeah, which is a lot of the kind of affirming language that I thrive with. And so yeah, it's kind of I've always wanted to be more emotionally vulnerable with you. But it's scary for me. It's just kind of one of those things. And so, but I've also found that the more I am, the closer we become as a couple and the more we're able to work together. And you're able to give me those words that really lift me up. And so even though there's still so much that's unknown, even in this last month, I feel so much more secure in moving forward than I was before, even though, I still don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I know that whatever it does bring, you and I are still going to be checking in with each other and we're working towards something together. And that's really important to me. It's been a great kind of relationship builder, I guess, for us.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a double boost, right? There's the mental health that just comes from having a moment about being honest about how you're feeling, rather than, like, especially if you're stressed out, distracting yourself from it, having the moment to cool down, reframing what's something I can do to have joy today. So like there's the mental side of things, but doing it as a couple makes it different because it creates that sense of working together.
Yeah. Well, and personal accountability too, right? That, okay, I can't do everything today, but I can do this today. And I, we'll be able to check in with you and
we can agile daily stand-up.
Exactly. Oh, so fun.
So yeah, that really is what we've been doing to combat stress. I feel like this is, I don't think there's any area where over the summer we just completely failed stress-wise, but as a business, for example, I wish I had more resilient income streams that were not dependent on trading time for money.
Yeah.
I think that's like,
that's both of us.
Yeah, that's both of us. Something to work on for the next year. But this is one of the area where once we got that, it felt like it was much more seamless and it became very much a source of strength. It's one of the areas that, like, it prevents the health and the business stress from dominoing into our relationship.
Exactly, which is really important when we're both entrepreneurs. We have this family. We do so much together that a lot of other couples just delegate to the other. And so we need to really be working together for that. So I think that kind of open communication daily is really important and has been so helpful.
Awesome.
For us.
So if you have any questions about doing a daily check-in or couples communication, you can throw those down below in the comments. If this has been helpful, give it a like, subscribe for more content. I have more videos in this series about handling different types of stress. A lot of it comes down to small habits that you do daily so that you don't have a neglected area of your life that just caves when you have a big stressor. So until next week, make big changes, one small habit at a time.
Yay!